Hi, this video is on how to replace a broken display for a Dell Latitude 2100 PC or netbook. First thing you want to do is remove the battery, and I would make sure I have a decent set of screwdrivers available to do this with, and a pair of needle nose pliers. If you don't have good fingernails to get stuff, I've got a number 2 magnetic, a small flathead, as well as a 000 Phillips head to get some of the small screws. The first thing we're going to do is actually remove the keyboard. Do that through the keyboard screws right here. There's only 2 screws to remove the keyboard on this one. It's actually a fairly easy keyboard to remove. So I take out those 2 screws. If they don't pop out, that's when I use my magnetic screwdriver to try to get a hold of them. And as I'm removing screws, I try to line them up so that I can keep track of which ones came out when. The easiest way to get the keyboard out after you've got the screws removed is just put the screwdriver that you used into the same screw hole and push a little bit, and you'll see that the when I do that, oops, I'm not using a small enough one. When I do that, the keyboard just kind of bows out a little bit, and then it pops out actually quite easily. As you bring the keyboard up, you want to make sure you don't ruin the ribbon cable there. So you kind of bring it up, this little white snap, undo, and that comes off quite easily. So I'm going to put the keyboard to the side with my battery. The next thing we're going to do is remove the access panel from the back of the computer. We have to remove, while we're on this side, these 2 screws. I'm sorry, these 3 screws that are black that we can see that say M25X5 on there, and they all have B next to them as part of their removing that. And again, I'm going to put all these together. So I remove those 3 here, here, and here, flip it over, and then I've got 4 more on the back to remove, which are of a different size. So I'm going to put those slightly off to the side there to get rid of the back access panel. This is not the easiest screen to replace, by the way. Of the screens I've done, it would be on the low end of the ease category. Now, to pop this off, usually you can just pull on it and it will just snap off. If you've got a small flathead screwdriver, it makes it a lot easier if you use that to go down through there to help pop off the back of that to get this whole back. And once we get it off, it will just lift off real nicely for us. And then that just comes off, and I can set it completely aside again to get to that. Now, after I've got to the back access panel, I've got some cords I need to remove in order to separate the monitor from this. One of those is the antenna. I'm just going to pop those off. They pop off actually pretty easily. If you've got fingernails, you can probably pop those off without the use of a screwdriver. That is just going to come out through here. The Dell book says to remove this power connector as well. The only reason to remove that power connector is to more easily get this underneath there, and I don't think that's a problem. I can slide it right underneath there, so I don't remove that one. The other thing is the speaker cable here. I've got to undo that, and there's a little pull on there that makes it easy to undo that. So when I've got that off, because these are all connected, and then the last thing right here is the actual monitor connection on this. I'm going to unplug that as well. So I've got all those things undone. The last thing is to take the monitor itself off, and I have to remove these 2 screws right here, which secure the monitor to the rest of the netbook. And then this is kind of, I'm not going to say difficult, kind of funky, the way you kind of open it up to slide this off. And this is what I was talking about, this the antenna wire there slides out underneath. So as I bring this up, I've got to make sure I get all those wires to slide out from underneath there. I actually didn't get it around there. There we go. And you can see what I mean. That antenna wire just slides underneath that power cable. So I don't actually disconnect that. So after I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead. You can, by the way, if you ever wanted to upgrade the memory, that's where you'd upgrade, and you could put a 2 gigger in there. Ours only have 1. So I'm going to move the laptop out of the way now and put it aside. Now I've just got the screen here. Normally, there are little rubber covers over these 4 screws. If you have students that like to pull on things, they might have already pulled those off, like this one currently has. The last one I did, those were still on 3 of the 4 spots. So I'm going to remove those 4 screws, and you can keep those rubber covers. They normally go right back on and adhere quite easily. And to take that rubber cover off, I usually just use a flathead screwdriver to kind of get underneath one corner, and it pops off pretty easily. So I get that off like that, and now I'm going to take the rest of the screen off, or the cover off, and it again pops apart pretty easily. There's no other screws holding it together now. I just usually use a flathead screwdriver, a nice little one to get down in here and to help me pop off the back panel here. There are snaps all the way around that hold that on there. Once you start getting them to pop open and you don't have one spot holding it together like I just did, it usually pops off pretty easily. Okay, once I get all these off and unsnapped, okay, so I've got my screen, and this obviously is what I'm going to replace. I have to remove it, so the first thing I have to do is connected here is this grounding screw. I'm just going to unscrew that all the way, and that's going to go back on. I also have to unplug the connector up here, which honestly I find easier to do because I don't have the fingernails. Unplug with a pair of those pliers, and then I've got 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4 that I've got to unscrew to get the rest of this off of the panel here. And then I'm just going to be down to the LCD screen itself. And I've got my LCD screen, the replacement, already next to me. So now this just comes off real nicely. I can move that out of the way. I have my ribbon cable here that connects it up. There's usually a piece of tape holding it down, and then this lever just comes up, and I pull it back, comes right off real easily. I'm going to keep that to put on the new display, and then I got to take off 1, 2, 3, 4 screws here in order to put these mounting brackets on the new display. So I'm going to move that one aside and bring in my new one. And I'm going to go ahead and first put on my mounting brackets that I just had on there. I got my brackets back on, and just so you know that the brackets go on the back of it, and they surround it, and you can see how it sticks out here. And the brackets, they say left and right on the sides in case you get befuddled. And then this is the bottom. The ones that stick out here are the bottom, and that also is where that ribbon cable connects. So I just take my ribbon cable now and line it up in there. After I've got it lined up right underneath on both sides, I just pull it in there. That is in there real nice and snug. And now I'm basically done. I'm just going to reverse the process to put it back together. So I'm bringing my screen back, the back of my screen back over here. I'm going to flip this over and set it back on its mount. And we will see if we have a nice, no broken screen over here, and our Dell laptop is fixed.